there, focus learners. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to master some essential corporate accounting and production management terms together. Now, to make absolutely sure these stick in your memory, we're going to take things nice and slow. Here is how it's going to work. I will repeat each English word exactly 3 times for you, and then I'll follow it up with a clear, simple English sentence so you know exactly what it means. Let's dive right in, shall we?
So here's our game plan for today. 1. Costs and pricing terms. 2. Production and warehousing. And 3. Assets, liabilities, and risks.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Costs and Pricing Terms.
Take a look at these pricing terms. Now, they might seem pretty similar at first glance, but in accounting, precision is literally everything. Let's break them down.
Let's start with the difference between expectation and reality. First up, list price. List price. List price. Basically, this is just the advertised price, the official number you'd see printed in a catalog. But then we have our second term, selling price. Selling price. Selling price. This is the actual final price a product is sold for after any discounts are applied.
Now, what about when we get to formal documents? We have the stated price. Stated price. Stated price. That's the specific, literal amount formally written down in a contract. On the flip side, we have the transaction price. Transaction price. Transaction price. This is the actual agreed-upon amount for an exchange between 2 parties.
Zooming out to the broader economy, let's look at the purchase price. Purchase price. Purchase price. Simply put, this is the specific amount of money it costs you to buy an item. Contrast that with the market price. Market price. Market price. This is the current general value of that item out there in the open market right now.
Okay, we all know surprises happen in business, right? You've got to know how to label them. That brings us to abnormal costs. Abnormal costs. Abnormal costs. These are business expenses that are highly unusual and completely unexpected, like having to repair your factory after a sudden storm.
Sometimes you get a package deal. We call that a bundled item. Bundled item. Bundled item. It just means multiple products are being sold together as a single package. And hey, dealing with all these numbers, you always have to be precise. 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 This simply means being exact and highly accurate with your figures.
Moving right along to Section 2, Production and Warehousing.
Here's a quick peek at the essential manufacturing and workflow terms we're about to tackle. Let's get into the first step.
Picture a busy factory floor. First, you might have surplus materials. Surplus materials. Surplus materials. Think of these as your extra, unused raw materials left over after making something. Next, those goods enter the subsequent production process. Subsequent production process. Subsequent production process. That's just a fancy way of describing the next following steps required to make a product. And when all these steps flow together perfectly, they form a cascade. 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 A continuous, flowing sequence of events where one step triggers the next.
Now, manufacturers have a big strategic choice to make. They can go with outside processing. Outside processing. Outside processing. That is the act of hiring an external company to manufacture your goods. Or, alternatively, they can keep it in-house with self-processing, 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 meaning the company manufactures the goods internally, using their own facilities.
Storage requires some serious management. We call this warehouse discipline. Warehouse discipline. Warehouse discipline. It means maintaining strict rules and organization inside a facility. Because if you don't, your inventory records and the actually physical items will drift apart. Drift apart. Drift apart. That literally means they separate and just no longer match each other.
What about holding stuff that isn't actually yours? That involves custody. 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 This is the legal right or responsibility to guard something. Very closely related to that is safekeeping. 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 This is the specific act of safely holding and protecting items for someone else. And because you don't actually own them, they're considered off-book, meaning they aren't recorded as your own assets.
Let's talk physical equipment for a second. First, scaffolding. 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 That's the temporary metal structure used to support workers on a site. Then, formwork. 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 These are the molds into which concrete is poured. For delicate manufacturing, you might use glass and porcelain tools. Glass and porcelain tools. Glass and porcelain tools. Fragile instruments made of ceramic materials. Now, over in logistics, vehicles eventually suffer from worn-out tires. Worn-out tires. Worn-out tires. Tires that are old and completely degraded. And heavy usage leads to accelerated wear, accelerated wear, accelerated wear. That is when equipment damages much faster than normal.
Okay, bringing it home with Section 3, Assets, Liabilities, and Risks.
Take a nice deep breath. These final terms are some slightly heavier legal and risk management concepts. But don't worry, our slow, structured method is going to make them incredibly easy to grasp.
This first one is a massive concept in corporate accounting: contingent liability. Contingent liability. Contingent liability. Basically, it's a potential financial debt that only becomes real if a specific future event actually happens, like, say, losing a legal battle.
Speaking of legal battles, here is how they usually progress. First, someone files a lawsuit claiming, lawsuit claiming, lawsuit claiming. That's a formal legal demand in court asking for money. And eventually, that leads to a court ruling, court ruling, court ruling, the final official decision made by a judge.
When a company absolutely needs to know exactly what a property is worth, they get an appraisal. 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 It is a formal, professional evaluation to determine the accurate financial value of an asset.
In finance, the risks are very real, like a default case. Default case, default case. This describes the specific dreaded situation where a borrower fails to repay a debt on time. On the balance sheet, accountants track the loan carrying amount, loan carrying amount, loan carrying amount. That is the current reported value of a loan sitting directly on the company's books.
Let's wrap up our vocabulary list with a few specific terms from different sectors. For risky jobs, there is hazard and danger pay. Hazard and danger pay. Hazard and danger pay. That's extra money given to workers performing dangerous tasks. In agriculture, we have perennial crops. Perennial crops. Perennial crops. These are agricultural plants that produce for many years. On a societal level, there's welfare, welfare, welfare. Programs specifically designed to help citizens. And finally, national defense. National defense. National defense. The military activities protecting a country.
Wow, we've covered a ton of ground today. Let's do one final super smooth read-through of 3 standout terms to really lock them into your memory. Ready? Selling price, selling price, selling price. Subsequent production process, subsequent production process, subsequent production process. Contingent liability, contingent liability, contingent liability.
You guys did fantastic work today. See? Learning corporate terminology doesn't have to be overwhelming when we break it down, repeat it carefully, and visualize it clearly. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder. Which of these powerful new terms are you going to confidently drop in your very next business meeting? Take a moment to practice saying them out loud a few more times, and I will catch you in the next explainer.